I continue to be flooded in my Twitter feed, my X feed, and in my inbox with people from the world of finance. Finance X, what we used to call finance Twitter, is remains on fire. They believe that the chaos and destruction to the world economy caused by Donald Trump is vast and in many cases irrevocable. It's just a parallel universe. Now the markets some days have been very bad, of course, some days not bad, but there's a group of people in the establishment financial community who say this is the greatest, most foolish act of political and economic suicide any leader has ever caused. I just want to give you a sample of some of this because it's overwhelming. It's the first thing we're going to discuss. So 107A, please. This is again a guy, a complete shit show, Spencer Hakamian. Zero direction, zero vision, zero discipline, zero coordination, a complete clown show start to finish. He doesn't even have to say what he's talking about. People who follow him know what he's talking about. Next, 107B, please. Vice President Vance wants to restore American manufacturing. Scott Bessent intends to build a free trade coalition against China. The head of the National Economic Advisors wants a weaker dollar. Lutnick wants a permanent new revenue source. Navarro wants to unleash dramatic change. None of them are the president, and the president keeps changing his mind on both the broad goals and specific instruments of his international economic policy. So again, that's the view, not just of Democrats, but of a lot of pro-Republican, pro-Trump, previously pro-Trump people in finance. Here is 103A. Big reporting out there on China as the president and Scott Bessent look to build a coalition of the willing against China, and reporting that economic activity in China and exports from China are slowing down dramatically and not being covered very much, and that this is going to have a major effect, not just on American consumers and access to products, but on the world economy. Number one here, see, parts of the U.S. economy are in a sudden stop. There's a wide range of anecdotal evidence and port data indicating import orders from China are halted, being canceled. Okay. Let's go to where am I here? 110, please. Sean Frank. You can skip over this one. Sorry. Oh, so he says he's looking for an off-ramp. So in other words, some of the analysis from people in the economic world is this is such a disaster that they're back to saying not we're going to have to adapt to this and deal with it, but that it's got to stop. That Trump has to find an off-ramp. And now 110, please. Second order effects. Ocean freight out of China is dead. Prices should collapse, right? Well, if it is dead, ships aren't sailing. They're just canceling the voyage instead of losing money on the cargo. So ships are waiting around for weeks, waiting to fill up, driving up the cost to get on actual departure. This is impacting, again, it's going to impact the American consumer, it seems, but it's impacting American businesses that rely on parts and finished products made in China to come to the United States. They're now not coming. So, Dan, is this community overreacting, or are they foreshadowing a significant recession?
Yes, they're both. I mean, what the street does is they scour data to try to get ahead of the curve. I mean, that's how they try to make money. They try to find things that the average person may not see. And they're famous for looking at satellite images of, coal dispensaries in China to see if stuff is piling up or moving out fast. And what might that mean? There is a lot of worrying data. And I think, we will see Trump could change his mind on a dime. I think what is also freaking out Wall Street is that they just don't understand what he's trying to achieve and if he's consistent, and that is driving them nuts because they just can't put the pieces together because he changes his mind frequently. So I think there is legitimate concern, but as usual, they're a little over, that data doesn't quite bear it out yet, but it might.
Sean.
I would think that, part of what I thought Dan was going at more is that I think that there's a pattern for the last several decades. We talk tough, we do nothing. And the street and everyone else doesn't know what to do with a guy who's actually willing to take this on. And that's, look, I agree. Trump's playing high stakes poker here. But at the end of the day, as you guys know, I'm in favor of high stakes poker because at some point we either play high stakes poker or we learn Mandarin, but there's no in between. And I'd rather see a leader fight for this. I've noted this before. There's no political upside. The easy thing is to do nothing. Trump's willing to fight. And I think that a lot of people in America are willing to allow him a long leash because they're tired of politicians from both parties telling them, there's nothing I can do.
But Sean, what is he trying to do?
Well, I mean, I think it's mostly trying to get a better deal, especially when it comes to China. I think that's where his head's at. You've heard him again. I go back to what's the consistent message over the last 40 years. I get, to the tweet that Mark read before. I actually like the idea that you've got disparate voices inside the president's inner circle giving him different takes. But again, go back to what the consistent message has been from Donald Trump going back into the 80s. It's about fairness. It's about market share. Now, do I favor more? I mean, I'm a heck of a lot more hawkish, I think, when it comes to China in particular. But I'll take any of the above. If the result is greater market share in China, and that's the outcome, which I think is what the president really is fighting for, then I'm for that. For me, I come down as not just market share, but I want us to build more in America. I want to be I want to reel back a lot from them. So, but there's none of the things that he mentioned that I'm against. I mean, that I think any conservative is against. I mean, market share, cudgel against China, you name it, I'm for all of it. And I think that at the end of the day, as I said, we're going to continue to see this thing careen towards a big summit, and we'll see what we get. My bigger thing, again, is that China knows how to weasel out of things better than anybody.
Mark,
Yeah,
what do you?
and they're patient. Well, so a couple things. First of all, they put out a statement this morning in the wake of yesterday's meeting with the Italian prime minister saying, very, very upbeat, very unified statement. And they said the president is, likely to go to Italy to meet with her there, and that maybe he would meet the European Union officials there as well. So as you sort of think about the futures calendar, it seems like eventually there'll be a meeting with Xi, but perhaps first there'll be a meeting with the Europeans, and if they can unite and maybe get them to cancel the EU trip to Beijing, that might strengthen the hand in negotiating with China eventually. I'll tell you what people are talking about now, because again, in the financial community, the belief is this can't last. Maybe the damage is not irrevocable; it's significant in their point of view. They're looking for the Supreme Court to strike the tariffs down, and they're wondering.
Not going to happen.
Well, might that you don't know. You don't know it's not. But we see a lot of court activity that's pretty significant. District Court, Court of Appeals, Supreme Court. I think it could happen, but I don't know how long it would take. Hey, want to be part of the two-way community all the time? Hit the subscribe button. Great video clips like this, plus conversations like no other, full episodes and more, always available on this channel. You got to hit subscribe to never miss a thing.